dark. Sound would help. Again. It's as simple as hitting that stupid little button there, and I forget it every time for some reason.
Oh,
I'm
really?
so sorry, folks.
Oh my gosh. So they didn't hear any of that, did they? Okay, so let's try this again in case nobody heard. So, what I said a minute ago is we want to say happy birthday to our amazing friend Shannon Mitchell. It's her birthday today, and I had to shout it out because Yanni said no sound. Maybe this is old. Maybe this is not current.
It's
okay.
It's going out now.
Hopefully they can. There, Dave said, there it is. Well, Dave, I hope you guys heard me tell her happy birthday because we just love her so much. Dave, you have an amazing wife.
Take a second right quick to remind everyone to like and share and
I don't know. I give up.
help us get our videos and the word about Darkness Live out there. And so we've had a really amazing few days.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. Except for when I got home and walked inside and saw my coffee cup in a pile of broken pieces.
Oh, yes. We need to have a coffee cup funeral.
Yeah, I think we do. Oh, man, guys. I don't know if anybody else out there gets really attached to their coffee mug, but I did, and it's shattered thanks to our lovely toddler.
Yeah,
oh, well, it's replaceable. I just really, really liked that coffee mug. But aside from that, today's been pretty wonderful.
Sounds like there's a murder being committed downstairs.
There could be. It's very possible. We have 3 of the kiddos here, and the older 2 watch the younger one while we're doing the podcast. And every so often we'll hear somebody downstairs screaming. Well, if they don't come up and get us, everything's fine.
Right.
It's just a little grumpy little troll tantrum.
So
what else is going on, Mr. Jeremiah?
Oh, not much. We had a really good weekend down in
Oklahoma City.
Yeah, Oklahoma City. Had a blast at the fair down there.
Yes, we met some amazing people. Every fair we meet amazing people.
Yeah.
And you had some pretty outstanding readings, and yeah, it was really great.
It was good. We had a blast. Had a really good time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Monday.
And we got it.
I did not work today. I took the day off because I realized that you know, when we go to these fairs out of town and stuff like that, it's
Mm-hmm.
just too much to get home super late, like almost early the next morning, late, and then go to work the next morning. So I took the day off, and I am so glad I did.
Yeah.
So glad.
Yeah.
So glad my bosses are awesome and work with me on days I need off. So, yeah.
Oh man. You know, we got about 5 minutes before we're going to bring our guest on.
Ooh, it's gonna be a good episode.
Yeah, we're excited about this
We're
one.
really
So
excited
we're
about
we're
this
having a Mr. Well, we'll plug him in just a few minutes, but I just want
Okay.
I want to take about a minute or two and talk about what happened last week on the episode.
Oh my gosh! Yes, yes.
So
it was wild, and we cannot explain it. Like, we cannot explain what happened last week on Darkness Live when Dave, our good friend Dave, was on.
So we're gonna have to, I guess, leave it in kind of a little bit of a cliffhanger. I had wanted to get that little video clip cut out so that we could run it on the air tonight, but I didn't quite get that done. But I will, and we'll have it on here next week for sure. But it was just insane. I don't know, I still don't know what to think about it. If do you remember what the timestamp was?
I believe that anybody who's curious about what we're talking about, in our episode last week, we kind of started talking about, like, you know, I wonder if somebody else is in the room that we can't see. You know, we're talking about ghosts or spirits and stuff like that. Well, then, towards the end of that episode, because last week, the end of our episode, it completely, Dave and I's camera froze, and then a few seconds later, the episode, the whole feed shut down, which was really weird.
Yeah.
I mean, we were having, issues with the cameras freezing and stuff like that, but then all of a sudden, so anybody who's curious, if you go to when there's about 42 seconds left of the episode last week, and you watch it, if you keep your eye on the camera that's on Dave and I, you're going to see something crazy, and you're going to be like, wait, what was that? Because that's what we did. And Jeremiah even got on his desktop and went frame by frame, and we have no explanation for what we saw.
Just because of the way everything was set up, and you can see a visible shadow pass in front of the camera.
Yeah,
if you're wanting a hint at what to look for, and it was insane, and I have no explanation for it whatsoever. My first thought is always to debunk and
try to figure out what
explain
it is.
things, but that we were not able to explain this. I will get that clipped out, and we'll have it for anyone that wants to see it on the show next week. We might spend a little bit more time talking about that, and that the kind of stuff that we have had happen in this place here next week, because
we've got a couple minutes before we talk to our guest. I almost slipped up. Or talk to our guest. I gotta say this. So before I came up here, I was downstairs and I was telling our son Lennon that, hey, you could watch the podcast, while you're downstairs if you want to. And he was like, oh, that's cool. And I was like, man, you're not gonna believe what we caught. We caught a ghost or something on camera last week. He's like, wait a minute, you guys were in my room. There's a ghost in my room, and I'm like, oh.
I heard him yell, oh, come on.
Yeah. He's like, no, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. And then I was like, oh, crap, I wasn't thinking about it. I wasn't thinking about that. But anyways, it was just like, oh, crap, I forgot he was, he's still littler and, maybe not too crazy about the idea of that. But our little skeptic.
So, we'll move on to the... What? Oh, I didn't call for your help, okay?
That was weird.
Just stop it. I know it was, wasn't it? So, my phone's doing weird things here now.
His Google Assistants popped in.
Yeah. So, we will go ahead and bring in our guest here. His name is Jason Kupzyk. He's been involved in the paranormal for a long, long time. You're going to want to use both earbuds tonight. And he is also one of the co-coordinators of the KC Metaphysical.
No.
Sorry, KC Paracon, not KC Metaphysical. KC Paracon that's been running for about 8 years now. It just had its 8th um, eighth year a few weeks ago, and it was a blast. We had an absolute wonderful time up there.
Yeah, that was pretty incredible. Most of the fairs that we go to, it's a little bit different than what the type of crowd we normally run into. With all
Hmm.
of the, because primarily the fairs and stuff that we go to are more metaphysical based, which paranormal and metaphysical are, they
They
intertwine.
kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, they
So,
do. They do.
so we're gonna go ahead and dial him in here and see what's up.
He's just such a great guy. Such a great guy.
Hello.
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 Can you hear us?
Can you hear
Okay.
me? I
That's
can hear
really
you, yes.
loud.
All right. Very good. I'm gonna go ahead and turn you up just a little bit because I can't hear you, but
Can you turn me down a little bit?
okay. Maybe it's just in the headphone control. There we go.
Is it better now?
Yeah, yeah, that works. So, how you been, buddy?
I've been tired.
I
I
know.
was gonna say, have you recuperated?
Not fully. I've actually haven't been feeling very well the last couple weeks.
Uh
But
oh.
I'm
Uh-oh.
doing okay. I'm doing okay right now.
Well, good, good. Hopefully you'll get back to 100%.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I've started a new diet and I'm
Oh,
just wanting to get into shape anyhow. So this was like, I
are you
think
doing
maybe.
the? Are you doing the? What is it? The keto? What is that diet?
No, I'm not
What is
doing
that diet
anything
called?
like keto, I think it
yeah,
is.
Keto.
keto.
Yeah,
Yeah.
keto.
I'm not doing anything like that. I'm just gonna eat healthy stuff.
Ah, gotcha, gotcha.
I
And
aspire to be like you.
you're basically you're getting rid of all the quick energy.
The quick energy?
Yeah, like the
Oh,
simple
yeah.
sugars and all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna try anyways.
But, yeah, that's about all it would amount to with me is trying because I have a sweet tooth from hell. But
But you're a lot better at drinking water, staying hydrated than I am.
well,
I'm not. I'll get better
so
eventually.
so Jason, tell us a little bit about how you ended up with the KC Paracon.
Okay, well, yeah, it was. I had my paranormal group in town at the time. It was called Mid-Continent Paranormal Research Society,
Uh huh.
and technically that group is still around. It's the group that I started, though I'm the only member, and I don't necessarily do anything under that name anymore. Um, but so I was running a group with that, a paranormal research group, and a couple of years into a certain group of people that were on the team, they wanted to go to an event in Chicago, a paranormal event,
Uh
and
huh.
I didn't have the money to go.
Okay.
So I decided that I'd try to put together something here in Kansas City, and that's really how it just started off. I contacted some people around town. I got on Twitter, messaged a bunch of people from around the country, and we didn't have a budget or anything, and everybody volunteered their time to come out, and we had it in a small theater in town
Uh huh.
in Kansas City, and that's actually how I met Hector, who now is part of who runs it with me. But it was called the Mid-Continent Paranormal Conference then,
Okay. Cool.
and I had all of five. I sold 10 tickets online beforehand, and I had all of five of those people show up.
Hey, half.
Wow.
Half. That's all right for the first one. That's.
I could tell you that I was quite dejected
Oh
at
man.
first. Um, the only people there were the people that were speaking. It didn't have vendors. It was at a theater, so I didn't have room for any of that.
Uh huh.
And everybody told me that I did such a great job organizing it that I should keep doing it. So I did after a lot of drinks. And I did. So I moved, like, I did the second year with Hector. And then I took a break from the paranormal completely. Like, I was doing other things in my life, and I got burnt out, sort of, I guess. People go through that a lot in this field.
Right.
I never really like completely got away from it, but I did take a year off from actually I wasn't involved in the planning of 2 years of the conference. They changed the name to the Kansas City Paranormal Conference. And then year 4, they invited me to come back because I was starting on the podcast with Josh, and I was getting back into the field. And since I had founded the event, they told me I should come out and hang out for the day, and I did. And when I did, everybody involved told me they needed me to come back the next year because they felt that they wanted me to run it again, set it all up. So I did, and that was year 4, and we just had our 8th year.
That is fantastic. Well, I am really grateful you kept trucking along with it.
I can't say that I haven't thought about many times not doing it anymore. It does take up a lot of my time throughout the summer. I'm very happy with the way it came out this year.
It was fantastic. I was going to say so this one is over, so when do you start kind of planning for the next one?
I always start January 1st.
Oh, so you start beginning of the year. Okay.
Yeah, I try to take the fall and early winter months off and not think about it. It becomes harder and harder every year because everybody wants to talk about next year, which is more than fine. I'm more than willing to talk about it. I wait until January 1st to start setting up the next year.
Right.
So, right now I am I'm trying to find a way, because I love putting on the events, but I want to find a way that I can bring something of my own to the event. So I'm hoping next year to have a film ready to show at the event.
Ooh.
Very cool.
With Brandon Callahan.
Oh, yeah. That would be cool.
We're working on that, and I don't really have any details for next year yet. I'm really glad that I got to meet you guys, and you guys got to be a vendor this year.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
We were stoked about that. That was awesome.
That was amazing. And I loved our placement. I loved where you placed us because
yeah, you're right there next to Chad and Johnny.
And it was funny because so that Velisca house, I'd never heard of that before, and I saw these dolls laying on their little, like, their booth, like their table or whatever, and I looked at Jeremiah and I was like, what are those dolls? And he's like, why don't you go ask? But I have a feeling they have something to do with that house, and I'm like, okay. So, I'll talk to anybody. So I walked over and there was a female sitting there. And I was just like, hey, tell me what's up with these dolls? They caught my eye and everything. And she's like, well, have you heard of the Velisca house? That's how you say it, right? The Velisca house? Mm-hmm. Is that how yeah, that's correct. Okay. And I was like, oh, I've never heard of that. And she's kind of telling me a little bit about the history and everything. And they had the copies of the newspaper that came out with that tragedy when it happened and everything. And it was in the newspaper. And then she walks over to the guy. And she's like, hey, she's kind of asking about, the Velisca house and stuff like that. Have anything you want to add? And he was like, oh. And I was like, oh, man, no, we're good. She's explaining it to me. I didn't have a clue who that guy was. I had no idea, Jason. Like, I'm still pretty new to, like, a lot of the paranormal, like the popular paranormal people and stuff like that. And so it was just really funny because he was just like, oh, okay. And then I told Jeremiah that, and he just started busting out laughing because apparently that guy is some kind of a big deal.
Well, he's regional, but he runs things at that
was
location.
He what?
So he runs things at that location.
Okay.
Which
yeah.
Every single popular paranormal TV show has been through, and he's been on all of them because of that.
Wow.
So this was the first year I got to meet him too. He's always been busy years before. But he lives there, so he's only like 3 hours away.
Okay.
But yeah, I didn't know what he was going to bring. I didn't know the dolls were coming, but apparently those dolls live there, and it's like many other haunted places, they tend to collect things.
Yeah.
So I think that's why he's able to bring some of them out, because they get overpopulated with people bringing in dolls.
Yeah,
Right,
because of all the
right.
kids. Jason, if you don't mind, would you kind of briefly explain what we're talking about in case somebody else was kind of like me and has no idea what the Velisca house was?
I haven't been there, but it's a small house in Velisca, Iowa, where an axe murder happened. Um, Honestly, I don't know a whole lot of the details of the place.
Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah.
Children. How many? I don't know how many kids they
I
had,
don't
but
know the details of the murder,
gruesome. Very, very gruesome, and they never found who did it.
but right.
They never found who did it.
Yeah, so I never made it up to Velisca, even though Malvern Manor, which Josh runs, is only like 10 minutes from there. Back when I was really hardcore hitting paranormal investigations, I'd never really found myself having to pay for a location to go into.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't go to a lot of places such as Velisca where everybody else was going. I did some of that, but by getting invited to it. I don't have anything against a place that wants to charge people or groups to come in. I haven't found myself the need to do that.
Right.
Right.
So I haven't been there. For a long time at the very beginning, I didn't want to have to pay a place. Now, if it was a place that I really wanted to go to, I would. But I don't necessarily. I keep myself busy enough with things in the paranormal field that I don't need to hit the big bucket list places for myself anyways.
Right.
Right. That's kind of the way I've always been with it. It's just, there's a lot of places I would like to go to, and if I had the opportunity, I would. Velisca's probably one of them. But I've always been really lucky in the fact that I've been able to find and happen onto either by myself or with my team or with other buddies like Brandon that we just happen on places we haven't had to pay to play, and and so many of them have been so amazing.
I can't help but want. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Jason.
I was just gonna say that I've found a lot of my, the most active places I've been to have just been random, and that's nothing against the places like that. I know that they're very active themselves.
Right.
But most of my big experiences in the paranormal field have been at just some random place that either nobody had ever investigated before or nobody really had any experiences before.
Right.
Ooh, I have a question. Jason, so what you were just talking about with, the places that are very active and like on the map, so to speak, that is like an attraction for paranormal investigators and, ooh, I can't wait to get in there type of place as well. Do you think that we'll say the energies that are in those locations, do you think that they feed off of the energy from the amount of people that go in, or do you think that it's just kind of like, do you think that ghosts become used to people that come in and kind of like to put on a show, or do you think that it's totally like a genuine experience that just keeps happening?
That's a very hard question.
That was a loaded question.
This is something that I drive my podcast partner nuts with, because I try not to. We talk theory all the time, but I try not to put my finger on any given theory.
Okay.
I think that any of that could be possible.
Okay.
I think that I don't know. I'm sorry I don't have a
No,
better.
you're fine.
You're fine.
You're fine. I'm making.
It's more of my. I try to view things when I go into an investigation. No matter any story that I've ever heard of a place, I try to free myself up from that. That being said, I've had places where Malvern Manor was on a show some time back. I don't even remember the name of the show. I don't really watch any of them anymore.
Uh-huh.
But I got to investigate Malvern Manor several times before and after the show.
Where is that located?
It's in Malvern, Iowa,
Okay.
which is about 3 hours north of here. It's about 10 minutes from Villisca.
Oh,
And it's become pretty popular in the last 5 or 6 years. I happen to be very good friends with one of the owners.
Uh-huh.
And I had
And that's
all
you're talking about Josh Hurd, right?
yeah.
Okay.
And I had all kinds of different stuff happen in there before the show that they experienced on the show. And that's the first time
wow.
I've ever had been to a place that's been on a show. So I don't know how other shows are that line up to people's experiences in there.
Right.
But a lot of the stuff that they had happen on that show happened to me in there.
Wow.
Very cool. Very cool. Kind of a I wouldn't really say validation is not really the right word, but then again, it kind of is. It's what am I trying to say? What am I trying to say, Jane, Stephanie?
Well, I think that it's hard to know whether or not on the show they actually experienced that stuff, but they got it from somewhere. So either it happened to enough people that they picked up on it and went with it on the show, or it actually happened to them on the show, which means it lines up to what I experienced.
Right.
Either way, it happens enough that it made the show.
Right.
Right.
That's cool. That's cool. Um. So tell us a little bit. I want to shift gears here just a little bit, but I want to kind of touch a little bit on what was it that drew you to the paranormal to start with?
Well, I don't know if there was one general thing that brought me to the paranormal field. I do remember many of my youngest memories in school, like in grade school and as far back as first or second grade, that I would check out any of the, Loch Ness Monster or alien books in the school library. So I know that I've always been interested in researching this stuff. I do know that the first thing that I can remember ever happening to me was a UFO sighting when I was 7. So it would have
Oh,
been around
yeah.
that time too.
Right.
It wasn't super impressive, but to this day in my head, if I'm remembering events the way that they happened, I have no explanation for what it was. It was a bright star in the sky outside of the Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri that was flying around and zigzagging around in a way that no plane that I know of even today can do.
Right.
So I can't remember if I was interested in it and reading about it before that or directly after that, but it was all around the same time.
Okay.
And then I had a couple until I got out of high school. I didn't have any other paranormal experiences. I saw a couple of UFOs in Colorado when I lived there after high school.
Uh-huh.
One was a pyramid shape that was reflective on all sides and gave off like a rainbow shimmer.
I mean, those that shape of UFO isn't unheard of, but it's one of the more rare sightings too.
That's true. It is. It's usually, a disc or delta wing type
Uh-huh.
UFO. But yeah, when I lived out there, I didn't have a whole lot of money, so I would drive into the mountains, park on the side of the road, and go hiking.
Right.
And just take off. And I was on this edge of a mountain. I wasn't following any trail. I wasn't terribly far from civilization, but I couldn't gauge how far away it was. It probably was 10 miles away. I couldn't hear it. It was just moving across the sky from the north to the south, and I watched it for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and then it went around the edge of the mountain that I was climbing, and I couldn't see it anymore.
Wow.
Do you think you've
And
been
so
abducted?
That's funny. I do have one time outside of alcohol. I can't remember what happened to me.
Oh dear.
I was in middle school. I think it was in 8th grade. I was at my grandparents' house after school in their basement, and I was down there by myself. Had the TV on. I was sitting on the couch. I got up to go flip off the light, so I didn't need the light on, the overhead lights. And the next thing I knew, I woke up on the ground. Some time had passed, not a tremendous amount of time, but it had been 5 or more minutes. The light was still on, and I had rug burns on me. Now,
What?
I may have had a single seizure, but I've never had that happen to me in any other point in my life.
Well, the other crazy thing about what you just said is, you talk about time. So, like, our time, maybe 5 minutes, but, if they took you and did whatever, time could have been different.
Right. It could,
with that experience. That makes sense?
Oh, absolutely.
There's
I
yeah.
just I have nothing.
Wow.
I have no memory of what happened then, how I ended up on the floor. Maybe I stood up too fast and I wriggled around on the floor for a little bit, but
But still,
I don't
that's
really know. That's the only time I could think of that I have missing time.
wow.
Wow. That's wild. Holy cow.
So when you woke up, did you go get someone, or were you just like, what the hell? Or were you just
No, I didn't really know
going
what
to bed?
to say to anybody. I sat back down on the couch. I didn't really know what was going on. I've always been a really independent person, even as a kid. So unless I felt it was really serious, I didn't go tell my grandparents. And I didn't know what happened. I didn't want to have to go to the doctor and have all this shit happen to me. So I didn't tell anybody for a long time. I don't know if I've ever told my parents or anybody in my family other than, my wife and my immediate family now.
Right.
So after that, did you ever have a fear of aliens at all? Or not really?
I've never had a fear of aliens, and at the time I didn't associate it with that. It was just unknown to me. I didn't know what happened. After growing up and in my 20s starting to research more about alien abductions themselves, that I drew some parallels to what I had happened.
Mm-hmm.
But really, it's all just blank to me. And it could just have been a seizure, but I don't know. I've never had anything else happen that was like that, or even like alien contact. I've seen a couple UFOs, but I try to separate aliens and UFOs in my mind. I do believe that aliens could be there and they could be piloting these things, but I also am very aware that the government does things and we don't find out for 50 years that they have the capability of doing something. So I don't know. I definitely had that happen to me, though.
Wow. What did your wife say when you told her about it?
Well, my wife, until a couple of years ago, didn't even believe in the possibility of life outside of this planet. She likes the paranormal and the ghost aspect of it. She's had her own experiences in that, but she's never been a believer in anything possibly alien.
Okay.
So she doesn't really, it was an odd story to her. She didn't think it was alien or anything like that.
Huh. Okay. All right. You had that'd be a good segue into another question that you had.
So Jeremiah and I, before this started, we were just kind of talking about what we wanted to touch on when we were talking to you, and my big thing, obviously, being married. So is your wife okay, so what you just said, but so I always can't help but think that when it comes to married couples and one's really into the paranormal, the other one is just kind of tagging along and curious about it, or is not into it at all.
I wouldn't say she's not into it at all. She's only been on one investigation that I could think of, and she just came out as more to finally see what I was doing on those investigations.
There you go.
What are you actually doing when you spend all this time out here walking around and talking to dark rooms?
Yeah. That being said, all of the places we've ever lived together, we've been together for 11 years, have had activity in it, and she's witnessed all of that, even more so than I have in some places.
Wow.
So she definitely believes in that. She doesn't feel the need to go out and look for it, especially since it's at home.
Right.
Mhm.
I would assume that's her reasoning. I guess I've never really talked to her about why she doesn't want to go out and
I was just
investigate.
dying
It
to
just hasn't
ask.
been.
I was dying to ask because it seems like a lot of people that I've met that are married that are really into the paranormal, like their spouse or their significant other, it seems like it's very unbalanced with it. More people that
Yeah,
I've talked to than not.
yeah, definitely.
That's
So-
cool. She's supportive, though. That's great.
Yeah, she's supportive. And she's so. I have to be honest. We joke about this all the time. When I first started my very first group, I started it with a friend of mine at the time, and she was like, "Oh, you want to do this? You could go out and do this and buy some equipment and do what?" And she told me like 6 months to a year later, she said, "I never thought in the wildest dreams that you would actually be doing this every weekend." She thought I would reach out to a few places, maybe go on 1 and 2 investigations, and then not be able to keep it going. But for the first 3 or 4 years, I was at a place every other weekend.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, she gave me the go ahead without realizing I'd actually be able to pull it off.
She thought you were probably just like, oh, this is cool. Like, you know, some guys, and it's like, oh, that'll fade. And then in reality, she had no idea she opened up that door for you. And you're like, yes. You're like, bye, honey. I'll see you next week. So you guys have kiddos, right?
Yeah, we do. I have a daughter. She's 15.
Message from the
no,
dark
sorry.
side there is.
She is from my first marriage, but my wife and her get along very well in a lot of ways better than I do with her. Not that I have a bad relationship with my daughter, but yeah, so we do have a kid together.
Very
Okay.
cool.
Is she, what about your, how old is she?
She's 16.
She's 16. So what does she think about dad doing the paranormal? Or do you talk to her much about it?
It's hard to tell with her.
I think that's
know-
probably the general rule with teenagers, but
Right.
That's true. So she, when she was 2, I think, she had some experiences, I believe, that she didn't know how to express at the time. With my first wife and one of our apartments we lived into, we had this alcove that was the size of a fireplace because the upstairs apartments had a fireplace there. So that's all it was. We just kept a bookcase in there most of the year, but during Christmas, we would put a Christmas tree in front of that bookcase.
okay.
And for the 2 or 3 years we lived there, we had Christmases there. She would walk up next to the tree, point behind it, and go, "That guy."
Whoa.
And we had, it was a bookcase back there, so we thought maybe there was a picture or something like that. And each time we'd look, we had no idea what she was looking at.
Right.
She wasn't pointing at the tree; she was pointing behind it, and she was looking behind it. And she did it year after year, but she only did it when the Christmas tree was there. We never figured out, what she was actually looking at because she couldn't really say any. She at first, with the first year, she was, just learned how to say "that guy."
Right.
So she really couldn't express herself. And then, I guess we also, when she got a little bit older, we didn't want to scare her
Uh-huh.
by saying, "You used to see this guy that we couldn't see." So I never really, now of course she doesn't remember any of that. So we had that happen. And I do remember one of the this is a stupid proud moment. When she was in kindergarten. It was a silly proud moment, not a stupid proud moment. When she was in kindergarten, I can't remember. It was one of her friends. I stopped in for lunch, and they had just gotten out of recess, and they ran up to me, her and a couple of her little friends, and they just said they were out in the field hunting fairies and ghosts, just like Kate's dad.
That's awesome. That's what you
And of
call
course, she
like.
doesn't remember that now either.
That's what you call a proud daddy moment,
Yeah.
right? I have my proud mommy moments. That's cool.
Yeah.
Though she came to the conference for a couple hours on Saturday. She likes to talk about it, but I think she's afraid.
Mhm.
So I don't want to bring up the fact that we don't do that. We don't bring up the fact that her room here at the house I live in now is where we hear everything that goes on when she's not here. We don't tell her that, but she doesn't experience it. I don't know. She doesn't experience anything that she really wants to talk about. If she does, she did another proud dad moment last spring. She came home from school and said that her and her friends were talking about the space lasers that started the fires out in California and all these other different conspiracies that she was reading into. And I'm a big conspiracy buff in that I love researching them. I don't fall into the line of believing everything. I just like reading about them. And I think that people should open their minds to things, whether they're real or not.
Right.
And I was a little proud of her to be talking about things like that with her friends, because there is still definitely a stigma to that kind of thing. And apparently her and her friends saw some YouTube videos about some conspiracy stuff, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. That's cool.
Did you have?
I think I really think you're onto something there, and I do the same thing with our kids. In that, I try to teach them to think outside the box and not just automatically believe everything they hear just because the government says it, or because the conspiracy theory guy says it, but just to think for themselves, because there's definitely things that the government's up to that they don't want us to know about. We all know that.
Well, yeah, and her point of all of it wasn't that she believed in whatever the guy was talking about. She was like, some of the points the person was making made sense, and it made me wonder. So, I mean, that's what more could you ask for?
Right, exactly. Just thinking outside the box and thinking for herself. That's exactly what you want.
So when she was telling you about it, were you like inside all giddy, like, oh my god, I'm so excited, my daughter is talking about this stuff, but I gotta play it cool.
I did talk to her about it. I talked to her about that, and I can't remember what there was another one that was included in the video, and off the top of my head I can't remember it. But I did. So I was recording an episode of my podcast later that night, and I led off the show with how proud I was and all this stuff, and yeah.
That's awesome.
Very cool. Very cool.
That's awesome.
So you mentioned it a couple of times. You want to throw in a little plug for your podcast?
Oh yeah, do it.
Sure. It's called The Ectoplasm Show, and you can find it anywhere you listen to any podcasts. And the logo includes Slimer, so it's hard to miss them.
Yeah.
And I've been on the show. Well, the show's been going for a little over 4 years. Josh had started it with someone else for about 30 episodes, and the other guy moved away, and then he did the show for a couple months by himself, and he was struggling.
Yeah.
And this is the time that I was coming back into the paranormal. Like, I had just decided I didn't want to be completely away from the paranormal field. I could do it my own way. I didn't have to do it whatever way made me burnt out from it.
Right.
So, and I knew Josh from before because I met him through the conference. I booked him for the second year of the conference, and that's how we became friends. And I just fell right into the show, and now we're over 300 episodes, and we do 2 a week most of the time, sometimes once a week. We talk about paranormal news and a topic episode every week.
Very cool.
That's
Very
awesome.
cool.
This week we're gonna do after I get off with you, we're gonna go and record a paranormal news episode, and then later this week we're gonna talk about alien abduction because it scares Josh, and I love to terrorize him with that.
Dude, it scares me very, very much. I have a very real fear of ugh. I believe in aliens, but I don't want to meet one. I probably have met one. I've probably been abducted. I have no idea, but I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I just have this very, very real fear, and I can't explain to you why.
I think that you're right to be fearful of it. I do think that, so if alien abduction is a real thing, if it's really happening and it's aliens from outer space, or let's say it's humans that are doing it, shadowy group of humans, whether they're government or not, they just have the capability to do this. Either way, it's not a positive thing.
Right.
It happens most of the time at night in the dark, and it's shady. You don't remember. They don't want you to remember, and you know it's changed a lot from the 60s and 70s when it was supposed to be love and light, and they're here to enlighten us and save us, and that kind of stuff is still talked about. But I think that when people really look at alien abduction or encounters, or they called it contactees, then there was a lot of nefarious stuff going on then in guise of wanting to help humans.
Right.
So
Right.
I think you're very right to be afraid of that. That being said, I am planning on putting Josh Hurd into situations to try and get him abducted, which means I'm going to be there right alongside him and next to him. So if we're successful, I may get abducted too. Now,
Do you have any last words just in case?
I've been trying to get him to do this film because he's a documentary filmmaker. I've been trying to get him to do this film, get Josh Hurd abducted. We may change the title, but that's the title of the working title for 2 years now. And we're finally getting to the point where I might be able to get him to do it. And it all started because he's terrified of the thought of it.
Oh my God, that is hilarious.
Wow.
That is awesome.
Wow.
It's changed over the format of going out and doing this have changed over the years, but basically the plan is to take him to UFO hotspots and put him through the scenarios that other people had happen to them when they were abducted. Not the actual abduction, just what led up to it.
Right.
Where they were, what they were doing, stuff like that. And, do I think we'll get abducted? No, but I do think that it'll either be very funny or very scary. I don't know.
That reminds me of when you talk about you and Brandon going down to Tahlequah, and you're like, "This guy's either nuts or we just hit a gold mine."
Yeah. When Brandon and I were taking that initial tour with one of the brothers down there around that Tahlequah homestead, and he was telling us all those stories. And of course you've heard the story, but for those that haven't, the homeowner just thinks he's telling us ghost stories, and a little bit. I hesitate to use the word seasoned because what really is a seasoned paranormal investigator, but just with the experience that Brandon and I had accumulated through our lives, we're hearing, we're not just hearing ghost stories. That he thinks he's telling us that, but we're hearing ghost stories and UFO stories and Bigfoot stories and you name it, this, that, and the other. All the full spectrum. I mean, there was the full spectrum there, and that was exactly our thought. Brandon talks about it when he does his presentations. Mm-hmm. This guy is either crazy or we hit the jackpot here.
So we are actually driving down to Tahlequah this Saturday. Brandon, Larry, and I
No
are
kidding.
driving down there this Saturday, and I don't know if we're going to the actual property yet. I don't know how much Brandon wants me to put out there, but we are working on a project that revisits that story.
Uh-huh.
And
Wow.
this is a scouting mission for me because I've never been down to even the area before. So we're driving down. We're taking the day, Saturday, getting up early, driving down to Tahlequah, seeing the sights, checking out a few of the places that I know things happened to Brandon. And yeah, we'll see what happens.
Very cool. Very
Ooh,
cool.
you'll have to
Yeah,
keep it. Let us know.
Yeah,
Let us know
keep
if
us
something
posted on
crazy
that,
happens.
And yeah, if you guys ever need any help with anything like that, just let me know. I'd love to. I'd love to help out with that.
I'm sure. I think this is going to be a long-term project over the next 6 months, and it's or more. And I know Brandon and I have talked about, bringing you in since you've been there before, at least on the project. So,
Cool. Yeah,
so
say the word.
I'm
Just say the
embarking
word.
on that, and I have no reason to not believe your guys' experiences, and I've never experienced anything that I could call dark. I've experienced things that might be negative in a way, but not like what you guys experienced down there.
Right.
Not
right.
the way that it changed Brandon's life.
Yeah.
Physically, it changed his life too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Poor guy.
Wow.
So, are you sure you want to risk that,
Yes.
Jason? Like, does your wife want you to risk that?
Brandon was over here over the weekend hanging out, and my wife had a bunch of questions for her, and I'm going to have her read his book so he knows where I'm going, or she knows where I'm going, and what I may be getting into.
See,
but from what I understand of this place, you are never going to run into what you expect.
Right.
See, and I've
It's
never
always
read
going
the
to be
books.
something.
I've never read the books. We've got the books, but I'm like, I just honestly, I don't know if I'm quite ready to read those books yet.
Oh my goodness. We got just a few minutes left.
Oh, hey, what? Okay, so I know you said you don't really like talking about next year's Paracon, but do your goals change from each year? Do your goals change?
My goals have always been to just make it bigger. For me personally, the payoff for organizing it and having it come together is why I do it. I love, obviously I love the field, and I love all of the wonderful people I've met throughout the years doing this event. And I love all the different things that I've learned paranormal wise. I don't know if I have a different goal other than making it bigger each year. I do have the new goal, of which I mentioned before, of bringing something of my own to the event.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
I'll be excited to see that.
There's what I don't want to happen with the event is it to get stagnant or go in a backwards direction.
Right.
So,
man, it's too bad you couldn't
what
get.
my goals are. So
it's too bad you couldn't get Bill Murray on there. Wouldn't that
I'm
be
sure
fantastic?
Bill Murray cost,
Oh my god.
50 times what my entire budget was for this event.
Right.
I would like to have actually Dan Aykroyd if I had to pick a Ghostbuster.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
Bill Murray is funny, and he would be an awesome person to have. But Dan Aykroyd's actually in the field, in the alien.
Ooh, yes, he is.
Yeah.
So
yes, he is.
He's an active researcher.
Well, and hello, he was the Conehead. I mean, remember the movie The Coneheads?
Yes.
Yeah, from Saturday Night Live.
Yep.
Beldar, Conehead. Wasn't that his name, Beldar? God, I love that movie.
Oh my gosh. So do you have anything else you want to plug right quick before we start winding the show down?
Um, yeah, just so I recently deleted most of my own personal social media stuff, but I still have my pages, like my Ectoplasm Show page and Paracon page.
Okay.
We'll put that
And
up
we may be putting one up for this project that we're putting together with Brandon. But yeah, just go follow the different pages or check out the websites if you're interested in the stuff that I do. It's the Ectoplasm Show and the Kansas City Paranormal Conference. And for now, that's all I'm really doing in the field outside of the project with Brandon.
Okay,
So.
cool. I will. I'll be sure once the videos once we go off air, I'll put the links for those pages up on the video description. For anyone that's interested, just check back a few minutes later, and I should have those links up there. So, well, Jason, thank you so much for joining us on the show tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me on. I don't get to go on a lot of different shows, so
Are
I'm
you
glad
going-
I did it on yours.
Are you going? Oh no, you're going to Tahlequah this weekend. Are you going next weekend? Are you going to Amigo?
I'm thinking about it. I do have that on my calendar. I'll see if I can make it out there. I'm very interested in this event because I've actually investigated that theater and the attaching building, which is the Wizard of Oz Museum, back in 2011. So
Oh wow!
Very
I
cool.
haven't been back, and I would love to get back out there. So
Wizard
I
of
hope
Oz
I can make
Museum.
it out there at
Very
least
cool.
for a
We
couple
will- we
hours.
will-
I mean, it's only an hour and a half for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome. We'd love to see you out there. We the teams Road Trip and ELP will be out there guiding the investigation part of it, and me and one of our good friends, Lena Townsend, will be out there reading. So it would be awesome if you could make it out there. I'd love to see you.
Yeah, I don't think that I have anything else throughout the day that day, so I don't see why I wouldn't be there.
Awesome.
All right, very cool. Well, thank you
So
so
yeah,
much
thanks so
again.
much for having me on.
Oh, anytime. You're welcome
Absolutely,
anytime.
absolutely. Keep us posted on any projects. If you want us to help you plug or get the word out on anything, just let us know.
Yes, and I want to talk to you. Oh, I know something I wanted to ask you.
Oh, yeah.
Before I get off here.
Yeah.
The talisman you gave me at the conference.
Yes.
You told me what it was, but I was in the middle of stuff and busy. And I know I asked you, but I can't remember
Was it the troll
what
cross?
the
What was
meaning
it?
was.
Yeah.
for
Which
it.
one did you give him?
It's a troll cross. I actually have one
Oh,
on
yeah.
here that I'll show off for the camera here, but if I can get the stupid thing off. There it is. So it's a troll cross, and it's a Nordic symbol, and it is actually it's kind of a ward or a protection against. Well, in the old Nordic cultures, it was a protection against like trolls and dark elves and that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it's a protection against anything that's like a not necessarily just brute force evil, but it's a protection against something that's kind of impish or not
Doesn't have
Would that
good
be
intentions.
like classified as like fae folk? Is that
yeah.
or is this a different?
Yeah, no, that it would be very much in that kind of classification. A little bit different culture, but if you wanted to compare cultures, then yeah, like the trolls and the dark elves and the giants and stuff like that would be kind of in the Norse version of the fae folk
Oh,
and the
cool.
dwarves and stuff like that. So
Well, I'm actually, for a long time, I've been very interested in elves and fae folk, and that's vein of thinking that doesn't get looked at a lot by the field
Right.
here in the United States. I know it's there. I know it's always been there throughout even Native American culture,
Mm-hmm.
but it's kind of still laughed at in some veins of the
Right.
paranormal community these days
Right.
here in the United States. Whereas in other parts of the world, they build their whole lives around these legends.
They pick where they're
So,
gonna build houses on land and shit because of, they don't want to interfere with the Fae. You know, it's yeah.
yeah, so I've always been interested in that kind of stuff. And I've actually been pseudo working on planning a project to look for elves
Mm-hmm.
in northern Arkansas that I was thinking might possibly partially line up with Tahlequah's right there.
Uh-huh.
So I was going to try to bring that aspect into this project. So
You
maybe
know
it's a good
that
thing you
that
gave me that.
that would be there you go. That would be actually, according to some of the original stories told to us by the brothers down there, that would be a good place to start that kind of a project, Jason. It's some of those old stories that they told have, well, what I would consider anyway, a lot to do with kind of the Native American version of the Fae folk. You know?
Yeah.
Jason, have you ever heard of a hagstone?
I don't think I've ever heard that term, no.
We need to get him one.
Yeah. So it's just I'll shoot you. Hey, Brandon's eavesdropping. He said.
He told me he was going to listen.
So
I wonder if he's been there the
Yes.
whole time.
I don't know. But it's I'll shoot you a picture of a hagstone when we go off air. But it's basically just like a river rock with a naturally formed hole through the middle of it, and they're supposed to also be protective against the more impish fae. But you're also supposed to be able to look through the hole in the rock and see the fae folk. If you want to follow that kind of a legend. So
We'll have to find him one.
yeah. So, anyway,
Yeah.
I think we're about out of time, but thank you so much for coming on, and
This has been
I really
awesome.
really enjoyed the
Thank you. Yeah,
conversation.
keep in touch for sure.
Absolutely.
And from a
And
vendor,
I'll push your show out on
Sweet.
my show.
Very
Sweet.
cool.
week.
Oh, we
For sure.
appreciate
Awesome.
it. We appreciate it. So, I have to say that from a vendor standpoint, you did a phenomenal job at the Paracon.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
I have to
Yes.
say that I only had a couple of things this year. Every year, as with probably everybody's events everywhere, no matter what kind of, there's always a few little hang-ups. But I could say that the positives outweighed the hang-ups, massively. The only thing is that, one of the air conditioners upstairs wasn't working well and the elevator wasn't working well. Other than that, I was happy with every aspect of the event.
It was a lot of fun, There were a lot of cool people there, so you did a good job, really good job.
Yeah, you did.
Thank you.
Yes, you did. Well, we'll be in touch, and hopefully we see you in 2 Saturdays.
That
Yeah.
was,
Sunday,
I will
Saturday night.
definitely.
Yep, September 7th.
I don't see why I wouldn't be there. So yes, I'll see you there.
Yay.
very cool. Well, thank you so much, and we will talk to you later. Okay.
Yeah. See you later.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, I gotta take these headphones out of my ears. Wow, that was great.
That was awesome.
He's just got such a calm presence,
Yeah.
and he's just somebody that just I think anybody that's wound up just would calm them down.
Mhm.
He's just got a great voice, and he's just a super awesome guy.
Yeah.
Just a great
he
guy.
He is.
I know. The first time I met him, was that the first time you met him at the same place when we were in? Was that Wilson?
Wilson? Yeah.
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 I'd heard a lot of people talk about him and whatnot. Seems like maybe at some point in time I had some correspondence with him about something, but I can't guarantee that.
Well, in the
I may be thinking
paranormal
about someone
community,
else.
well, in the paranormal community, both of you guys have been in that for a long time, so it's very possible that you
Yeah.
had some run in or knew the same people or whatever. But
I know Brandon had talked about him a lot, so and Jason Roberts had talked about him a lot. So
I can see why. He's a really neat,
Yeah,
neat person. Isn't that awesome that he continued the Paracon and now look what it
yeah,
turned into?
yeah. Oh, it's awesome.
I can't
So,
wait to see what he's gonna have for next year.
I know.
That's
So,
exciting.
Yes, we will put the links for all of Jason's pages, the Ectoplasm Show and the KC Paracon,
Yes.
up on the video description as soon as we're off air. But yeah, it's been awesome. We had a good conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed. In 2 weeks, we have an event coming up called Booze and Brews. It's at it's at the Columbian Theater in Wamego, Kansas. If you're in the area, I would really encourage you. I'll also post the link to the page for that event in the video description because I know I don't know if there's a limited number of tickets or not, but
I don't know.
it would be worth checking in. I don't imagine they will last very long. So
Probably not. Probably not.
the teams.
Is Marla the one who puts that on?
Hmm?
Is Marla the one that puts that on?
Yes.
She's awesome.
Yeah, she is. She's a wonderful person.
I always talk about how many awesome people we meet, but they genuinely are amazing people.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say that.
Yeah.
Pretty fortunate that we get a.
The teams that are going to be guiding the
everybody.
event that night are Everyday Legacy Paranormal and Road Trip Paranormal. I've been highly involved with those teams. In fact, I was the original founder of Everyday Legacy Paranormal. I'm not directly involved with them anymore, but
So, did you
they're
have-
still doing awesome things.
So let me ask you a question. The Everyday Legacy Paranormal, did you have that before you met Brandon? Or how did that time frame play out with the two different teams?
When
Because didn't you say when you and Brandon went down to Tahlequah, that's when Road Trip was born?
me
You and Brandon made a baby and called it Road Trip Paranormal?
Wow.
Hey, it was a great spawn. What can I say, right? Spawn. Pun intended, right?
Yes, I'd had Everyday Legacy Paranormal going since like 2007, and Road Trip Paranormal was started in 2011. So,
Who was originally with Road Trip? You and Brandon?
Just me and Brandon to start with.
And then who happened after that?
After that,
I'm sure you've told me all of this, but I'm like, ooh, let's talk about this.
We kind of used it, to sponsor some public events, but then, it wasn't getting utilized to its full potential, the name and the image of Road Trip Paranormal. So
Lena.
I talked to Brandon, and he was okay
Shannon.
with it, and we handed Road Trip Paranormal off to Jason Roberts.
Okay. Sorry, I don't have
And-
Tourette's. I'm just all excited because I finally peeked over at the chat and I see Shannon's on there and Lena's on there and of course Dave's on there. But that's all I'm seeing on my end of the screen, guys. So I apologize if I haven't said hi to somebody that's watching. That's all I can literally see right now is those three people. So I'm so excited you're here. Go ahead.
But no, thank you, Jason. So, but
Yes, Jason, thank you.
I handed Road Trip. Brandon and I handed Road Trip Paranormal off to Jason Roberts, and he took and ran with it and has done an amazing job with it.
He's still running with it.
Yeah, he is.
He's still running with it. And then he brought Leo and Renee and
Leo.
So who's exactly Everyday Legacy and who exactly is Road Trip?
It's all the same people. It's just two different aspects of the same group, basically.
Okay.
Everyday Legacy, officially, ELP is the private investigation side of it.
So if there's
whereas
a home investigation.
Right.
Gotcha.
Everyday Legacy Paranormal, or Road Trip Paranormal, sorry, is the public event side of it. So.
Okay.
But technically, Jason is over Road Trip Paranormal and Leo is over Everyday Legacy. So
okay, I was just
they
curious.
each have big jobs to do there.
Yeah,
So
they do. They do. So do you miss not being totally going to every investigation, and do you miss it?
I've seen enough.
You've seen it. I seen enough.
So, I mean, I do miss it sometimes, but for the most part, I'm fine with just letting them run with it. I just I do miss getting to go to investigations every once in a while, but I got other plans, and we have other plans, and things.
Your path kind of took you a little bit of a different route.
So
it's side by side with what they still do. Mm-hmm. It's just a little bit of a different venture.
So
there's some amazing. They are some amazing guys, though.
Yeah,
I will say that. I'll never forget at our ceremony when we tied the knot. Haha! Literally, we had a hand fasting. We literally tied the knot. That was cool. Anyways, that was great. I just loved what I just said. I will never forget when Leo showed up, and he literally looked like Athelstan from the Viking show.
Right,
he had on
right.
What is that even called? He had on a monk's
monk's robe, a monk's costume.
Yeah, like he was down to the ground, black, had like the rope tied around his waist.
Very brave, showing up at a Viking wedding dressed like a monk. So
that was awesome. That was awesome.
Yeah. So yes, I would strongly suggest in 2 weeks, if you are up for it, to check out that Wamigo event. Like I said, I will put the link for that page up in the video description, along with all the other links I'm putting up there.
Hey, can we plug something real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Can we plug what Serafina was talking to us about for next year? Or is that not something we can talk about yet?
I don't know how ready she is for a lot of information to be put out about that yet.
Okay.
So we need to clear that by her first.
Okay, I'll be a good girl. I won't spill the beans.
I mean, I'm sure she probably wouldn't mind, but it's...
Oh, well, we'll talk about it at some point. It's just a really exciting thing that's going to happen.
Some possible new events and new fairs coming about that are going to be really cool. So.
Oh, yes, they are. Yeah. I'm really, really excited about it. Really excited about it. And I was, Yeah, it's going to be great. So, and one more thing, and before we go, if you are interested in seeing the video clip from last week where the visible shadow passed in front of the camera that we were talking about earlier in the show, that was wild.
You're going to want to log on next week, because we're gonna have that clip, and we're gonna play it for you guys and get you guys' opinions. We might spend a little bit of time on that.
See, and how many on your desktop? You said it was what, 30 frames per second?
Mm-hmm.
And can you get like a higher one than that, or is that like the max? Like 30 frames per second is the highest you can go?
No, I can go.
With your, I don't know.
I mean, we can go faster than that, but the stream's not going to be as good.
No, I was just curious for the stop motion, like the frame by frame. Like
I can slow it down as much as we want to.
Looking at it like that, because it literally, like, if you guys watch it, Lena asked if we find the growling.
Perfectly honest, Lena, I haven't had the chance to really sit down and focus on looking. Yes, we did hear.
Yes,
we did.
You heard one of them.
I forgot about that.
Lena, I'm going to be blunt about it. Like, when it comes to like EVPs and stuff like that, like, I still struggle with hearing the things like you guys do. I don't know why I do.
It just takes
I don't know
practice.
if I'm just so focused on the actual noise that's happening. It's hard for me to pick up on the subtle things or whatever, so I struggle with that, but yes, there was growling too in the video, a few times, not sure, so. But you did hear it one time.
Yes, I heard one of them, so we will, I'll clip that out. Yeah, as well. So
that'd be cool.
But yes, we will have that for you guys to see next week. It's really interesting, and we haven't been able to explain it yet. And we've had a lot of people that I really respect watch it, and they aren't able. And all of those people have been in this room under the studio conditions. And I don't know.
There is really no explanation.
Yeah,
like,
I don't.
I don't know.
We haven't been able to find an explanation for it yet. So yes, we will.
Oh, Yanni said yes.
Yep. Yes, we will definitely have that up for you guys to check out next week. And I'm not exactly sure what else.
Hey, next Monday's Labor Day.
Oh, it is.
Next Monday's Labor Day. We're still gonna do it. We're still gonna do this though.
Yeah, it's fine.
I don't
with
have
me.
to work, and yeah.
If they're not able to watch it right away that night, it's okay.
all
They can
good.
always watch the replay. It's all good. So
It'll be there. It'll be there for your convenience.
We're going to go ahead and cut out tonight. But another thing that we've been talking about a little bit, I think next week we might launch this. We might try to go ahead and expand the show to an hour and a half because we seem to really struggle keeping it inside that 1 hour window.
See, and I really like, to be perfectly honest, I don't like I like the idea of it starting at a certain time and going for an hour, but I don't like the idea of it going being a set from this time to this time. I kind of like it better, the concept of when we're done, we're done. But you know me, I don't really like constraints when it comes to times and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You guys can give us your input if you think that an hour and a half would be too long, or if y'all think that it would be better if we gave you guys a set time. That way, if anybody wants to check it out or whatever, and they can be late.
We'll start it at the same time. We'll just
Yeah.
run it a little bit longer. So, anyway.
I hope everybody has a fabulous Tuesday tomorrow. And Dave, I look forward to seeing your pictures every day. David Mitchell posts these amazing photographs on his Facebook every day, and I always get a breath of fresh air. It's funny I say it that way because of what his photography is about, but I thoroughly enjoy his photographs that he posts. So, and Shannon, have a great birthday. Thank you for chiming in.
Yes, happy birthday.
Yes, we will see you guys next Monday. And again, if you have any thoughts or input on people that you think we should get on here, or topics, or if we should have it a set amount of time, or just free form here, just kind of let it go.
I'm not
done.
sure what else we have planned for next week, but we could probably spend a little bit of time on that video clip and the audio. So yeah, we'll have fun with it. So anyway, we will see you guys next week. If you don't mind, hit like, share, and we will talk to you guys later. Thank you so much for watching, and hey, don't be afraid of the dark.
Have a good night. Bye. I got my Miss America wave right.